Hey everyone, quick question before we dive in. Where are you watching from? And what time is it there? Drop it in the comments. I love knowing who I'm telling this story to. I met Derek at a charity gala in Manhattan. Not the kind where people go to be seen, but the kind where they go to write checks and leave before the speeches. I was there because my foundation had just funded a new pediatric wing at St. Luke's, and the hospital insisted I make an appearance. Derek was there because his architecture firm had designed the building, pro bono, and his boss thought it would look good in the press release. I was standing by the raw bar picking at oysters I didn't want when he walked up and said, "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else. And you look like you're about to tell me something I've heard 100 times tonight," I said, not looking up. Fair, but I was actually going to ask if you want to sneak out and get real food. There's a taco truck 3 blocks from here that doesn't know this neighborhood exists. I laughed. It was the first real laugh I'd had all night. We left. We ate tacos on a bench in the rain. He didn't ask what I did for a living, and I didn't offer. He talked about buildings the way poets talk about love, with reverence and frustration and a kind of desperate hope. He told me about the community center he was designing in the Bronx, how the city kept cutting the budget, how he was paying for materials out of his own pocket because the kids needed a place to go. I told him I worked in finance, which was true, just not the whole truth. By the time the rain stopped, I knew 2 things. He was the first man I'd met in years who didn't care about my money, and I was going to keep it that way for as long as possible. I was 34. I'd built my first company at 26, sold it for 8 figures at 31, and was running my second Oz, a fintech platform that processed payments for small businesses, from a corner office that looked out at the Hudson River. I had a penthouse in Tribeca, a portfolio of rental properties, and a net worth that hovered just under 20 million. I also had a closet full of designer clothes I never wore, a therapist I saw twice a week, and a deep, bone-level exhaustion that no amount of success could cure. Derek was different. He lived in a one-bedroom in Astoria. He took the subway. He wore the same 3 suits to every event. When I stayed over, we ordered Thai food and watched bad movies on a couch that was older than some of his interns. It was the happiest I'd been in years. I never lied to him. I just never told him the full truth. When he asked about my apartment, I said I rented a studio in Midtown. When he asked about my car, I said I took Ubers. When he asked about my family, I said they were complicated and left it at that. The truth was, my parents were dead. My mother died when I was 12, my father when I was 19. I inherited nothing but debt and a work ethic that bordered on self-destruction. Everything I had, I built myself. And I learned early that money changed how people saw you. It made them careful, then calculating, then cruel. I didn't want Derek to be careful with me. I didn't want him to calculate what I was worth. I wanted him to see me, just me. So I played the part. I wore jeans and thrift store sweaters to our dates. I let him pay for dinner, even though it meant he was eating ramen for the rest of the week. I talked about saving up for a vacation, about hoping to buy a place someday. He never questioned it. He never made me feel small. He just held my hand and said we'd figure it out together. 6 months in, he asked me to meet his parents. "Derek, I don't know. They're going to love you," he said, kissing my forehead. "They're a lot, but they're good people. They worry about me. I'm the youngest, and they think I'm naive." "Are you naive?" He grinned. "Probably, but that's why I have you." We drove to Connecticut on a Saturday in October. The leaves were turning, and the air smelled like wood smoke and old money. His parents' house was a colonial on 3 acres of manicured lawn, the kind of place that looked like it had been in the family since the Mayflower. A silver BMW sat in the circular driveway. A gardener was raking leaves into perfect piles. "Just so you know," Derek said as we pulled up, "they can be a little formal. Don't take it personally." I wasn't taking it personally. I was taking it strategically. I'd dressed carefully for this. A simple black dress, flats, minimal makeup, No jewelry except a pair of stud earrings that cost less than $100. I looked respectable, presentable, and completely unremarkable. The kind of woman you wouldn't look at twice. The kind of woman who definitely didn't have 7 figures in her investment accounts. Derek's mother, Patricia, opened the door before we could knock. She was 60-something, blonde, Botox smooth, wearing a cashmere sweater set that probably cost more than my first car. Her smile was warm, but her eyes were doing math, assessing my dress, my shoes, the lack of a handbag logo she recognized. Derek. Oh, you look wonderful. She hugged him, then turned to me with the same smile, 10 degrees cooler. And you must be? Claire, I said, extending my hand. It's so nice to meet you, Mrs. Whitfield. Patricia, please. She took my hand briefly, then let it go. Come in. Come in. Richard is in the study. He's been dying to meet you. The house was exactly what I expected. Dark wood, oil paintings, furniture that looked uncomfortable and expensive. Derek's father, Richard, emerged from a room lined with books he'd probably never read. He was tall, silver-haired, with the kind of tan that comes from golf, not work. He shook my hand with a grip that was meant to establish dominance. Claire, Derek's told us so little about you. There's not much to tell, I said, smiling. I work in finance, live in the city. Pretty boring, really. Finance, Richard said, like he was tasting a wine he didn't trust. What firm? A small startup, actually. We're still getting off the ground. Ah, risky business. Startups. He looked at Derek. Your brother Marcus works at Goldman, you know. Very stable. Very impressive. I know, Dad. You've mentioned it. Only because we're proud of him. Patricia steered us toward the dining room. Now let's eat. I've had the cook prepare something special. The cook had prepared beef Wellington, which I suspected was a test. It's a dish that requires a specific kind of knowledge, which fork, which wine, how to cut it without destroying the pastry. I'd eaten it 100 times at charity dinners and board meetings. I knew exactly what to do. So I did everything wrong. I used the wrong fork. I asked for ketchup. I drank my wine too fast and refilled my own glass without waiting. I watched Patricia's smile tighten, watched Richard exchange a look with Derek that said, "This one. Really?" So Claire, Patricia said, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. Derek tells us you grew up in New Jersey, was it? Yes. Newark. Oh. How? Urban. It was fine. My parents worked a lot, so I was pretty independent. And what did they do? My mother was a nurse. My father, he did a lot of things. Construction mostly. He was between jobs a lot. The silence that followed was heavy with judgment. I could see them filing me away. Working class, unstable background, probably looking for a way up. The gold digger narrative was writing itself, and I was handing them the pen. Well, Richard said, clearing his throat. Derek tells us you're quite fond of each other. We are, Derek said, taking my hand. I'm crazy about her, Dad. Yes. Well, love is important, of course, but so is compatibility, shared values, similar backgrounds. I think we have plenty in common, Derek said, a warning edge in his voice. Of course, sweetheart. Patricia reached over and patted his hand. We're just getting to know her. That's all. After dinner, Patricia accidentally left a magazine on the coffee table, Town and Country, open to an article about prenuptial agreements. Richard asked me what I thought about women who marry for money. I said I thought everyone should be careful, that love was important, but so was protecting yourself. Very practical, Richard said, nodding. I like that. A practical woman knows her worth. He meant it as an insult. I let him think it was a compliment. The drive back to the city was quiet. Derek kept squeezing my hand, apologizing with his touch. I'm sorry about them, he said finally. They're not usually like that. It's okay, I said. They're protective of you. I get it. They were rude. I should have said something. You did. You told them you were crazy about me. That was enough. He pulled over on the side of the highway and kissed me until I couldn't breathe. I am crazy about you. I don't care what they think. I don't care about any of it. I know, I whispered. And I did know. That was the problem. I knew he loved me, and I knew his parents would never accept me, and I knew that eventually, the truth would come out, and everything would change. But I wasn't ready for that yet. I wanted a little more time in this perfect fragile bubble where I was just Claire, and he was just Derek, and nothing else mattered. We got engaged 3 months later. Derek proposed on the roof of his office building, with the Manhattan skyline behind him and a ring he'd saved for 6 months to buy. It was modest, a half-carat solitaire in white gold, and it was the most beautiful thing anyone had ever given me. I said yes. I cried. I didn't tell him I could have bought us both penthouses in that building without checking my balance. His parents were thrilled, which meant they were horrified but too polite to say so directly. Patricia called to congratulate me, her voice dripping with syrup and poison. We're so happy for you both. Of course, we'll want to help with the wedding. We have so many connections. It would be a shame not to use them. That's so generous, I said. But Derek and I were thinking of something small. Just close friends and family. Small. She laughed, a tinkling sound like breaking glass. Oh, Claire, you can't be serious. The Whitfields have a reputation to maintain. We'll host it at the club, of course. 200 guests, minimum. And we'll handle the details. You just show up and look pretty. I let her plan it. I let her choose the venue, the flowers, the menu. I let her send me dress options that cost more than Derek's monthly rent, then pretended they were a little out of our budget. She'd sigh and say she'd see what she could do, then send me something equally expensive. It was a game to her. She was testing me, waiting for me to reveal my true colors. The grasping, ambitious girl from Newark who'd snagged her son and was now trying to bleed the family dry. Every time I declined something expensive, every time I insisted on keeping it simple, her suspicion deepened. She couldn't understand why I wasn't taking the bait. The truth was, I didn't want her wedding. I didn't want her guest list or her club or her approval. I wanted Derek, and I wanted to stop lying, but I didn't know how to do the second without risking the first. Then, 2 weeks before the wedding, everything changed. We were at their house for a casual family dinner, which meant 6 courses and wine that cost more than my first semester of college. Derek's brother Marcus was there with his wife, Chelsea, a woman who'd gone to boarding school with Patricia and had the personality of a decorative pillow. They spent the entire meal talking about their new house in the Hamptons, their recent trip to St. Bart's, the help they were having trouble with. Claire, Marcus said, pouring himself more wine. Derek tells us you're in finance. Must be tough startups. Lot of instability. It has its moments, I said. Must be nice, though. Flexible hours. Not like the grind at Goldman. I work hard, I said evenly. Oh, I'm sure you do. He smiled, showing too many teeth. It's just different, isn't it? When you don't have the pressure of real responsibility, when you're just helping out. I felt Derek tense beside me. I put my hand on his knee, keeping him calm. I actually run the company, I said. So the responsibility is pretty real. Run it? Chelsea tittered. Oh, how adorable. Is it one of those little app things? The ones where you swipe and match? It's a payment processing platform, I said. We handle about 2 billion in transactions annually. The table went quiet. Patricia's fork hovered over her plate. Richard set down his wineglass with a deliberate click. 2 billion? Marcus said, his smile faltering. That seems high for a startup. We're not really a startup anymore, I said. We went public last year. I'm the majority shareholder. I hadn't meant to say it. The words just came out, pushed by months of swallowed insults and quiet rage. I watched their faces shift. Confusion, then disbelief, then something that looked almost like fear. Claire, Derek said softly. What are you talking about? I turned to him, and my heart broke. He looked betrayed, but not angry, just hurt. Deeply, quietly hurt. I was going to tell you, I said. I was going to tell you everything. I wanted you to love me for me, not for what I have. I do love you for you, he said. But you lied to me. For months. You let me think. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Well, Richard said, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. This is certainly illuminating. Claire, if what you're saying is true, and I have my doubts, then you can certainly understand our concern. A woman with that kind of resources marrying into our family, it raises questions. Questions? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to me. You mean like whether I'm a gold digger? Whether I'm after your money? Those are fair concerns, Patricia said, her voice tight. Given the circumstances. Your son has a one-bedroom apartment in Astoria, I said. He takes the subway to work. His net worth is probably less than my monthly charitable donations. If I were a gold digger, I would be the worst gold digger in history. Then why the deception? Richard demanded. Why pretend to be something you're not? Because I didn't want this, I said, gesturing at the room, the table, them. I didn't want to be judged by my bank account. I didn't want to wonder if people liked me for my money. I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to be loved for who I am, not what I have. And yet, Patricia said, her eyes cold. Here we are. With you lying to our son, to us, for months. That doesn't speak to character, Claire. That speaks to calculation. Mom, Derek said, his voice hard. Stop. No, Derek, I won't stop. This woman has deceived you from the beginning. She let you believe she was struggling, let you worry about her, let you pay for things you couldn't afford. I never asked him to pay for anything, I said. I tried to pay. He insisted. Because he thought you needed help. Patricia's voice rose shrill and sharp. He thought he was taking care of you, and all along you were… What? Playing some kind of game? It wasn't a game, I said. It was survival. You want to know why I hid my money? Look at yourselves. Look at how you're reacting. You called me a gold digger when you thought I was poor. Now you're calling me calculating because I'm not. There's no version of me that wins with you. That's not fair, Richard said. Isn't it? You decided who I was before I walked through that door. You decided I was beneath you, beneath your son, beneath this family. And you were cruel about it. You tested me, mocked me, treated me like I was trying to steal something. All I ever wanted was to love your son. And you made that impossible. I stood up, my hands shaking. Derek, I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner. I should have trusted you. But I was scared. And I was tired. And I thought if I could just get through the wedding, through the first few years, maybe they'd see me. Maybe they'd see us. But they won't. They can't. And I can't keep pretending. I walked out of the dining room, out of the house, into the cold October night. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a coat. I stood on their perfect lawn and called an Uber, my fingers numb, my chest hollow. Derek came out a minute later. He didn't say anything. He just took off his jacket and put it around my shoulders, then stood beside me in the dark. Why? He asked finally. Because every man I've ever dated has wanted something from me, I said. Because my last boyfriend asked me to invest in his business and then spent the money on his actual girlfriend. Because my business partner tried to sue me for half my company after we broke up. Because I have been used and measured and valued like a stock portfolio since I was 26 years old. And then I met you, and you didn't care about any of it. You cared about me. And I was so terrified of losing that I built a wall around the truth and hoped you'd never find the door. He was quiet for a long time. The Uber pulled up, its headlights cutting through the dark. I need time, he said. I need to think. I know. I love you, but I don't know if I can trust you. And I don't know if I can forgive you for not trusting me. I know, I said again, because it was the only true thing left. I got in the Uber. I didn't look back. The next week was the longest of my life. Derek didn't call. His parents didn't call. I went to work, sat in meetings, signed documents, made decisions that affected thousands of people, and felt like I was drowning in still water. My assistant Mara finally cornered me on Thursday. You need to eat something, and sleep, and possibly shower. In that order. I'm fine, I said. You're not fine. You're wearing the same shirt 3 days in a row, and yesterday you called the CFO Derek. I did? You did. He was very confused. I put my head in my hands. I messed up, Mara. I messed up everything. Then fix it, she said, like it was that simple. Or let it go. But don't just sit here rotting. I went home. I showered. I ate Thai food on my couch and watched a bad movie. And for a moment, I almost felt normal. Then my phone rang. It was Derek. Hey, he said, his voice rough. Hey. I've been thinking. About us. About what you said. About what my parents said. And? And I think we need to talk. In person. Can you come to Connecticut tomorrow? To your parents' house? No, to the community center. The one in the Bronx. I'm there until 6. I went. I took the subway. Because I could. Because it was what I'd done 100 times with him. Because I needed to remember who I was when I was just Claire. He was in the main hall, reviewing blueprints with a contractor. He looked tired, thinner. But when he saw me, something in his face softened. Hey, he said. Hey. We walked. The building was beautiful. Open, light, full of color and possibility. He showed me the classrooms, the gym, the garden he was designing on the roof. I've been thinking about what you said, he told me. About why you hid things. And I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. My parents. They've never had to wonder if people want them for their money. They were born with it. They don't understand what it's like to build something and then worry that it's the only thing people see. So what do we do? I asked. I don't know, but I know I don't want to lose you. And I know that if we're going to make this work, we need to be honest. Completely honest. No more secrets. No more games. No more games, I agreed. Which means, he said, turning to face me, you need to meet them. Really meet them. As yourself. And I need to stand with you when you do. We drove to Connecticut that evening. I wore a dress that cost more than his parents' monthly mortgage payment because I could, because I was done hiding. I didn't bring a gift. I didn't bring an apology. I brought myself. All of myself. And that was enough. Patricia opened the door and her smile froze when she saw me. The dress was understated but unmistakably expensive. The watch on my wrist was a Patek Philippe. The bag over my shoulder was Hermès, and I hadn't bought it to impress her. I'd bought it because I liked it, because I could, because I was done pretending that my success was something to be ashamed of. Claire, she said, recovering. How lovely to see you. Patricia, I said, matching her tone. Thank you for having me. Richard was in the living room, drink in hand, watching a golf tournament he didn't care about. He stood when we entered, his eyes doing the same math they'd done 6 months ago. But this time, the numbers added up differently. Well, he said, you look prosperous. Thank you, I said. I am. We sat. Derek took my hand and I felt the tension in his fingers, the way he was bracing for impact. I owe you both an apology, I said. Not for who I am, but for how I handled things. I should have been honest from the beginning. I should have trusted that Derek would love me regardless. And I should have trusted that you would judge me fairly, even if you didn't. And yet, Patricia said, here we are, with months of deception between us. Yes, and I understand if you can't move past that. But I need you to understand something else. I love your son. I loved him when I thought he was broke. And I love him now that I know he's not. I loved him when he paid for tacos with cash from his tip jar. And I love him when he talks about buildings like they're living things. My money doesn't change that. It never has. Easy to say, Richard muttered. Easy to prove, I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. This is a prenuptial agreement. I had my lawyers draw it up. It states that in the event of a divorce, I keep everything I brought into the marriage. My companies, my properties, my investments. Derek gets none of it. And anything we build together, any home, any savings, any joint ventures, we split equally. I handed the folder to Richard. He took it, surprised, and began to read. There's also a clause, I continued, that voids the agreement if either party commits adultery or financial fraud. If I cheat on Derek, or if I try to hide assets, I walk away with nothing. Same for him. It's the most one-sided, protective agreement I could write, in his favor. Because I don't want your money, Richard. I don't want your house or your club or your connections. I want your son. And I'm willing to put everything on the line to prove it. The room was silent. Patricia stared at the folder in her husband's hands, her face unreadable. Richard flipped through the pages, his expression shifting from suspicion to confusion to something that looked almost like respect. This is very generous, he said finally. It's not generous, I said. It's honest. It's what I should have done from the start. And it's what I'm doing now, because I love him, and because I'm done letting fear make my decisions for me. Derek squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. I squeezed back. I need a drink, Patricia said, standing. Anyone else? I'll help, I said, following her into the kitchen. She poured 2 glasses of wine, her hands steady but her shoulders tense. She handed me one, then leaned against the counter, studying me. Why? She asked. Why the charade? Why let us think you were what we thought you were? Because I wanted to know what you thought of me, I said. The real me. Not the money, not the success. Just me. And I was afraid that if you knew the truth, you'd see the money first. Just like everyone else. And what did you learn? That you're protective of your son. That you value stability and tradition. That you don't trust easily. I took a sip of wine. And that you were cruel to someone you thought was beneath you. That you tested me, mocked me, treated me like a problem to be solved rather than a person to be known. She flinched. We were concerned. You were cruel, I repeated. And I let you be, because I thought I deserved it. Because I thought if I could just endure it, eventually you'd accept me. But I don't deserve it. No one does. And I'm not going to endure it anymore. She was quiet for a long time. Then she set down her glass and looked at me. Really looked at me, not at my dress or my watch or my bank account. I was cruel, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I was afraid. Derek is my baby. He's always been too trusting, too open. And when he brought you home, I saw someone who didn't fit. Someone who might hurt him, or use him, or leave him when something better came along. So I pushed. I tested. I wanted you to fail, because if you failed, I was right. And if I was right, he was safe. But I didn't fail, I said. No, you didn't. She laughed, a broken sound. You were kind when we were rude. You were humble when we were proud. You let us think the worst of you, and you never defended yourself. I didn't understand it. I thought it was weakness. But it wasn't, was it? It was strength. The strength to be misunderstood and not need to correct it. The strength to let people be wrong about you. It was fear, I said. But I'm working on that. She reached out and took my hand. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was firm. I don't know if I can forgive the lying, she said. But I think I can understand it. And I think I can try. For Derek. And maybe, eventually, for you. That's all I can ask, I said. We went back to the living room. Richard was still reading the prenup, his brow furrowed. Derek was watching me, his eyes full of hope and fear and love. Well, Richard said, setting down the folder. This is quite a document. Very thorough. Very protective. Is it acceptable? I asked. It's more than acceptable, he said. It's unexpected. I misjudged you, Claire. I thought you were one thing and you're clearly another. That doesn't excuse how we treated you. But I hope you can understand that we were acting out of love for our son. I do understand, I said. And I hope you can understand that I was acting out of love for him too. Just badly. Very badly, Patricia said, but there was a hint of warmth in her voice. We'll need time. All of us. But I think we can move forward. Together. Derek stood up and pulled me into his arms. I buried my face in his neck, breathing him in, feeling the pieces of my life slowly clicking back into place. One condition, Richard said, and we pulled apart. Anything, I said. The wedding. Patricia's been planning it for months. 200 guests. The club. The whole thing. Richard, Patricia protested. No, let me finish. Claire, I think you should let her plan it, not because you need our approval, or because you owe us anything, but because she wants to. Because it's the only way she knows how to show love, and because I think it might be good for all of us to have something beautiful to focus on. Together. I looked at Patricia. She was blushing, just slightly, her composure cracking around the edges. It's going to be very traditional, she warned. Very Whitfield. I wouldn't expect anything less, I said. But I have one condition too. Name it, Richard said. The community center, the one Derek's designing in the Bronx. I want to fund it. Fully. No strings attached, no naming rights, no press. Just let me help. Let me be part of something that matters to him. To us. Derek's eyes went wide. Claire, that's done, Richard said, cutting him off. If that's what you want. It's what I want, I said. It's who I am. And I'm done hiding it. The wedding was everything Patricia promised. Grand, traditional, slightly overwhelming. I walked down the aisle in a dress she helped choose, in a church her family had attended for generations, surrounded by people I'd never met and would probably never see again. And I didn't care, because at the end of that aisle was Derek, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. We wrote our own vows. I promised to be honest, always, even when it was hard. He promised to see me, not my success or my failures, but me. We kissed, and the room cheered, and for the first time in my life, I felt completely seen. At the reception, Richard gave a toast that surprised everyone, including himself. He talked about misjudgment, about second chances, about the courage it takes to be vulnerable. He looked at me when he said it, and I knew he was trying. That was enough. Patricia danced with Derek, then with me, her movements stiff but her smile genuine. You're good for him, she said, as the song ended. You make him braver. He makes me softer, I said. We balance each other. Yes, she said. I think you do. We cut the cake, we threw the bouquet, we danced until our feet hurt and laughed until our sides ached. And when it was over, when the last guest had left and the lights had dimmed, Derek carried me over the threshold of our new apartment, a place we'd chosen together, that fit us both. That was ours. I love you, he said, setting me down. All of you. The millionaire, the taco lover, the woman who used the wrong fork at my parents' dinner table. All of it. I love you too, I said. The architect, the dreamer, the man who paid for Thai food with quarters. All of it. We made love slowly, carefully, like we were learning each other for the first time. And in a way, we were. Without the secrets, without the walls, without the fear. Just us. Just truth. Afterward, lying in the dark, Derek traced patterns on my skin. Can I ask you something? Anything. Your company, your net worth, all of it. Does it ever feel like too much? Like you're carrying something you can't put down? Sometimes, I admitted. Sometimes I wake up and forget who I am without it. But then I remember that I'm not my money. I'm not my success. I'm the girl who ate tacos in the rain with a stranger. I'm the woman who was brave enough to be misunderstood. I'm the person who loves you. And that's enough. That's always been enough. He pulled me closer, and I listened to his heartbeat, steady and sure. I have a confession, he said, his voice muffled against my hair. Oh? I knew. Not everything, but I had suspicions. Your apartment was too nice for a studio. Your rent was suspiciously low. And one time I saw your bank statement on your phone. Not on purpose, he added quickly. You left it open, and I glanced, and I saw a number, a big number. I pulled back, staring at him. You knew? I suspected, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to scare you. I didn't want you to think I cared. And I didn't, Claire. I don't. I just wanted you to trust me enough to tell me yourself. So all that time, you were pretending too? Not pretending. Just waiting, being patient, giving you space to be ready. I laughed. A wet, messy sound. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Both hiding, both waiting, both too scared to be honest. Maybe, but we're honest now, and that's what matters. That's what matters, I agreed. We fell asleep tangled together, and I dreamed of tacos and rain and a man who saw me when I was invisible. When I woke, the sun was streaming through the windows, and Derek was already up, making coffee in the kitchen. Morning, he said, handing me a mug. I was thinking, we should do something. Something that matters. Together. Like what? Like, use what we have. Your money, my designs. Build something. Help someone. Not for press, not for approval. Just because we can. I thought of the community center, of the kids who would use it, of the lives that would change because someone cared enough to try. Okay, I said. Let's build something. And we did. Over the next year, we funded 3 more community centers, a homeless shelter, a scholarship program for first-generation college students. We did it quietly, without fanfare, because the work mattered more than the recognition. Patricia and Richard came around slowly. They visited the centers, met the kids, saw the impact. They stopped asking about my startup and started asking about my day. They invited us for dinners that weren't tests, holidays that weren't performances. They became family. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And I learned that trust isn't something you earn once and keep forever. It's something you build day by day, choice by choice. It's telling the truth when a lie would be easier. It's showing up when it would be simpler to hide. It's loving someone enough to let them see all of you, even the parts you're ashamed of. Derek and I are still building, still choosing, still learning. And sometimes, when I'm tired or scared or tempted to put the walls back up, I look at him, at the man who waited for me, who saw me, who loved me before I was brave enough to love myself. And I remember that the truth, however hard, is always better than the lie, because the lie keeps you safe, but the truth sets you free. And I am done being safe. I am ready to be free.